This time on Movie Reviews, we're going to be looking at the brand new film, Joker. Joker was directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro and follows the story of Arthur Fleck, a man who is down on his luck and devolves into madness, becoming the Joker. Guys, Joker was a film that I was really excited for. This has been one of my most anticipated films of the year. I thought the idea of an origin story was very interesting, seeing as this film is not based on any type of comic book from the Batman series or anything like that. It's just a film about a man that is devolving into madness and eventually just becomes the Joker. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and the idea that they were focusing on Scorsese's filmography, basically doing a Joker meets Taxi Driver, was really intriguing to me. And what we got was a really solid film. What I like about this film isn't so much that it's like a comic book. In fact, it is very much not a comic book story at all, aside for that, it has the Joker in it, it has Thomas Wayne in it, it has Bruce Wayne in it, and it's set in Gotham, but it feels so grounded, and that's what makes this movie so different from a lot of the even darker DC movies that we've gotten that have tried to be dark and gritty. This one really feels like a lived in world. It feels real and it feels like a world that exists. But what I really liked that this film did was basically making it a character study by focusing on a person that devolves into madness, which I thought was a really cool angle to go with. Basically making the villain of our movie kind of the protagonist, and the film never tries to say that what he is doing is right, and I think that's what a lot of the controversy comes into play when in talking about this film. And never for a second did I really believe in what the Joker was doing was right, and I don't think you're supposed to feel that way at all. It's a movie, guys. But I'm not going to talk about the controversy of this movie very much, so really, let's get really started in what I thought about the film overall. Well, first off, I want to say that the acting in this movie is absolutely superb from everybody, and especially from Joaquin Phoenix, who is the heart and soul of this movie. And honestly, if he was not in this role, this movie might not have worked at all. Everything is hinged on Joaquin's performance in this film, and he is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody's talking about how he should get Oscar nominations, and I agree. I think this is a very fantastic performance from him, as well as a great performance from Robert De Niro. And it's just very well acted. And on top of being well acted, this is a beautiful looking film. The cinematography looks absolutely gorgeous, and it looks so lived in. Like, the world that this movie takes place in, which is the 1980s, it feels dark and grim and gritty and very ugly. It really puts you in mind to Taxi Driver a lot. It's got a lot of the same atmosphere, and they really nailed it with the cinematography. The look of this film is absolutely beautiful, and something that goes hand in hand with the cinematography is the soundtrack for this film, which is beautiful and also really haunting, and just it leaves you with a really eerie feeling throughout the entire film that really never leaves until, well, you finish the movie. This film is also made up of just horrific scene after horrific scene, and a lot of people have talked about the violence of this film, which I don't think there is really that much in terms of violence in this film, but this film is very oppressive and has some great sequences throughout this film. One in particular is a scene that takes place on a train with Arthur Fleck and some Wayne Enterprise guys. That is the scene that really sold me and put me right into this film that I absolutely loved. And then the third act of this film is the best part of the film. It is phenomenal from beginning to end. It has so much to say, and it's just done so well. Todd Phillips did a great job with these scenes and with really making this a really good character study. Now, that said, there are some problems I do have with this film. Now, some people will hail this movie as a masterpiece. I don't think it's quite there, but it is a really solid movie, and it has some problems, and I'm going to go into those as well. Something I found with the film while watching was the film was just a little too on the nose in terms of its subject matter and what it was trying to say, that it just felt out of place at times. It felt like it was really shoving its messages down my throat sometimes, which, I mean, in a way it made me feel uncomfortable, I guess, and I guess it worked on that regard, but also it just felt too juvenile at times, like it was written by somebody that really was just trying to shock you and put all these different issues into a film that don't exactly all land or work together. Also, something I found is something that Red Letter Media actually brought up in their own review is kind of how Arthur Fleck is kind of like on the checklist of crazy people. Like, he lives with his mother, he gets fired from his job, and all these different things that are always apparent in, what makes a psychopath in movies. And it just kind of follows that list to a T and really doesn't do much in the way of new or interesting. Also, this movie is never as deep as it thinks it is. Todd Phillips was definitely trying to make a movie that felt really deep and had a lot of things to say, but it just kind of falls flat sometimes. And also, this is crazy because I never usually talk about this because I don't believe in it usually, but I think this movie at points is pretty pretentious, especially when it comes to moments when the camera is lingering on Joaquin Phoenix during these dance sequences that are throughout the film. And there was one in particular where I really felt that it just didn't add anything. It was just kind of devoid of, like, really anything. And that's what I found really pretentious about it, was what was it trying to say? And that scene happens right after the big train sequence in the middle of the film, and it just felt really off to me. It felt very forced, but there are moments like this throughout the rest of the film, and I think some of those work a lot better and aren't as pretentious and artsy as this one was. Also, something I had a little bit of a problem with in the film was a twist that happens about near the third act of the film, and this twist could have really worked. I'm not going to go into it because I think that's pretty much spoiler territory, but if you watch the rest of the film, there are moments in the film where Arthur Fleck has these delusions, and one delusion in particular that's in the first act of this film is really good and one of the best moments of the film, but having that scene early on really ruins the impact of another delusion that Arthur Fleck has later on in the film, and it's meant to be super impactful, but I just ended up seeing it coming from a mile away because they already set up earlier in the film that he has delusions, and it just kind of ruined the impact of that scene for me and that revelation. I think overall what this film is lacking, even though it is incredible in many, many areas, is just its lack of depth with its characters as well as its main focus. Arthur Fleck, I never feel like I truly understand him or truly, like, get where he's coming from or truly just buy into this character. I think Todd Phillips just played it a bit too safe with making this character just stereotypically crazy, that the only thing that this movie really has going for it that makes it, like, fantastic is the performance from Joaquin Phoenix. I'm gonna give Joker an 8 out of 10. Guys, if it wasn't for Joaquin Phoenix's performance and the third act of this film, which is phenomenal, I probably would have given this movie a 7. But as it stands, I think this is still a great movie, even though I do have some problems with it that I think some people are going to overlook. But I think this is still a really good film. It's not one of my favorites of the year, but it's still a solid film that I think people should see. And the controversy with this film, I don't understand it. I'm not going to get into it, but after watching it, it wasn't needed. None of the controversy, like, it's perfectly fine. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.